Well, let's talk about the Blohm and VOSS Bv222. Blohm and VOSS being a German ship manufacturer around the pre-war World War II period. They also made some pretty interesting aircraft. One of the most interesting aircraft they made was the Blohm and VOSS Bv222 flying boat. And I'm just going to lay some war thunder and read something from Wikipedia. And before I talk about the Bv222, I'd like to make a detour to the Bv238, which was the 1944 version of the 222. It was more advanced, it had more guns, truckload more guns, and it had more horsepower. I think each engine had 1700 horsepower. There was only one example produced, but it was a pretty awesome example, and it's the one that you can see in front of you as represented in War Thunder. That's not the 222, that's the 238. With those 4 machine guns per wing pod, 2 wing pods, 4 machine guns for the tail gunner, 4 machine guns for the nose gunner, 2 20mm cannon for the turret above the cockpit. The aircraft, the Bv238, is extremely well armoured. I'm just going to read from Wikipedia for 238. The Blohm and VOSS Bv238 was a German flying boat, Flugboot, built during World War II. It was the heaviest aircraft ever flown when it first flew in 1944 and was the largest aircraft produced by any of the Axis powers in World War II design. The Bv238 V1, bearing the 4-letter Stammkennzeichen, factory radio code of RO plus EZ, first flew in April 1944. 6 1,287 kilowatt, 1750 horsepower Daimler-Benz DB603 inverted V12 piston engines were used in total, arranged in 3 forward-facing engine nacelles on each wing. Each engine's coolant radiator was placed in a chin cowl directly under the engine, bearing an almost identical appearance to those fitted to the Do-217M medium bomber and some examples of the Do-217J night fighter, possibly as standardized Crafti Power Egg unitized engine modules. Destruction. The sole completed Bv238 was strafed and sunk while docked on Charles Sea. Sources differ regarding the date, the attackers, and the attack aircraft used. According to American sources, the Bv238 V1 was destroyed by September 1944 by P-51 Mustangs of the US 361st Fighter Group. The lead Mustang, Detroit Miss, was piloted by Lieutenant Urban Ben Drew, and another was piloted by William D. Rogers. Drew was told after the attack that he had destroyed a Bv222 Viking, another large flying boat, as we know. He continued to believe this was the case until he was contacted by the BBC in 1974 for a documentary and told that their research had determined that the aircraft he had destroyed was actually the Bv238 V1 undergoing flight tests at the seaplane base at Charles Sea. German sources, based in part on the testimony of nearby inhabitants and Blohm and VOSS employees, claimed the Bv238 V1 was discovered by the RAF between 23 April and 26 April 1945. The Allies reportedly concerned that Adolf Hitler could use it to escape to South America, and so an attack followed shortly afterwards. The aircraft was attacked by Hawker Typhoons or Hawker Tempests. Their strafing set the engines alight and the aircraft burned and sank with only part of a wing remaining above the surface. According to the British, the attack happened on 4 May 1945. During the strafing, the back of the flying boat broke and the forward part of the plane sank into the water. Other prototypes. Production of 2 other prototypes was begun, but neither was finished. A quarter-scale model of the Bv238 was made during the plane's development for testing. Known as the FGP227, it made a forced landing during its first flight and did not provide any data to the program. That's interesting, they made a flyable, human flyable model of the aircraft. Wow. Bv250. A land plane version, initially called the Bv238 Land, was proposed, capable of carrying out transport, long-range bombing and transatlantic reconnaissance duties. The lower hull was replaced by a plain fairing with a retractable undercarriage comprising 12 main and 2 nose wheels. One bomb bay fitted the space between the wheel bays. Another lay behind the main undercarriage. The wing floats were similarly replaced with retractable outrigger stabilising wheels. Above, front-loading doors opened onto a cargo deck with space for multiple tracked fighting vehicles. The nose wheel could be folded up, making the aircraft kneel and allowing vehicles to drive directly on or off board via a loading ramp. Alternatively, passengers' seating could be fitted. A further upper deck behind the crew cockpit accompanied further passengers, bringing the total capacity to 300 troops. 300, wow. That's equivalent to a modern day airliner. Renamed the Bv250 in 1942, 3 prototypes were ordered but none was finished by the end of the war. That is quite amazing. And here's the specifications. Crew 12, length 43.35 metres, wingspan 60 metres, height 12.8 metres, wing area 360 metres squared, empty weight 54,780 kilograms, gross weight 90,000 kilograms for reconnaissance missions, 95,000 kilograms for bomber missions. Takeoff weight 100,000 kilograms, power plant 6 times Daimler-Benz DB603G inverted V12 liquid-cooled piston engines, 1,417 kilowatts, 1,900 horsepower each for takeoff. Propellers 3-bladed constant speed propellers, performance maximum speed 350 kilometers an hour at sea level, 425 kilometers an hour at 20,000 feet, range 6,600 kilometers, service ceiling 24,000 feet. Armament: guns 8 times 13mm MG131 machine guns, 1,800 rounds per gun, 4 in each nose and tail turret, 4 guns in each wing pod, 2 wing pods, 2 20mm auto cannon in the forward dorsal turret, 4 13mm MG131 machine guns, 500 rounds per gun, 2 as a twinned MG131Z in each manually aimed beam/waist position. Bombs: 20 times 250 kilogram SC-250 bombs in wing bomb bays and 4 times 1,000 kilogram SC-1000 bombs on external racks, or 2 times 1,200 kilogram LD-1200 torpedoes on external racks, or 4 Henschel HS-293 missiles on external racks if Bv238 fitted with FUG-203 Kell McLoss guidance transmitter, or 2 times 1,000 kilogram Bv143 glide bombs on external racks. What an armament. Particularly the high-tech stuff with the Henschel guided weaponry. Let's start off with some basics. So the name of the aircraft is the Blohm and VOSS Bv222, and let's read from Wikipedia. The Blohm and VOSS Bv222 Viking, German for Viking, was a large 6-engine German flying boat of World War II. Originally designed as a commercial transport, it was the largest seaplane to attain production status during the war. And it was a pretty big aircraft with those 6 engines. They should have built more of them. They only built 13, number built 13, it's not many. Design and development. Prior to World War II, the German airline Lufthansa had carried out many transatlantic mail flights. However, their main interest was passenger transport, and they initiated a program in 1936 for which Hamburger Flugzeugbau offered the HA-222, a very large flying boat designed by Dr. Richard Vogt. By the time an order for 3 was received and work began, the company had changed its name to that of its parent company, Blohm and VOSS, and the design was redesignated the Bv222. Construction of the first prototype V1 began in January 1938, with the construction of the V2 and V3 following within weeks. V1 made its test flight on 7 September 1940, carrying the civil registration D-ANTE. During trials, it demonstrated that it could carry up to 92 passengers, or 72 patients on stretchers over short distances. That's pretty good. At a maximum speed of 385 kilometers an hour. That's great. I think a Condor could only do 320. The flight characteristics were found to be satisfactory, but with some improvements required. Further trials lasted until December 1940, when the V1 passed into Luftwaffe service, receiving a military paint scheme and the Stammkennzeichen, individual alphabetic military aircraft registration code of CC plus EQ, later changed to the alphanumeric Geschwaderkennung wing code, designation of X4 plus AH, when in service with the Lufttransportgruppe. The type was noted for a long flat floor inside the cabin and a large square cargo door aft of the wing on the starboard side, with such a flat floor for the hull interior being a welcome novelty for that era. The usual balance floats for a flying boat design were ingeniously designed as a matching pair of retracting float units per side, which extended from beneath the wing's outer panels in clamshell fashion when fully extended, and fit fully flush with the wing panels undersides when retracted. Only 13 aircraft are thought to have been completed. Originally powered by Bv238 Fafnir radial engines, later aircraft were powered by 6 746 kilowatt, 1000 horsepower Jumo 207C inline two-stroke opposed piston diesel engines. Two-stroke opposed piston diesel engines, how about that, eh? Two-stroke. The use of diesels permitted refueling at sea by special resupply U-boats. C-13 aircraft was a sole example, fitted with Jumo 205C and later Jumo 205D engines. Early aircraft were identified as V1 to V8. Production examples were designated C-09 to C-13. That's the design and development. Let's also look at the operational history and the variants and the specifications. Operational history. V1 made 7 flights between Hamburg and Kirkenes up to 19 August 1941, transporting a total of 65,000 kilograms, that's 143,000 pounds of supplies, and 221 wounded men, covering a distance of 30,000 kilometres, 19,000 miles in total. After being overhauled at Hamburg, V1 was sent to Athens, from where it carried supplies for the Africa Corps, making 17 flights between 16 October and 6 November 1941. The V1 was at this time unarmed and was given an escort of 2 Messerschmitt Bf222 heavy fighters. Following these flights, the V1 returned to Hamburg to have defensive armament fitted, comprising a 7.92mm MG81 machine gun in the hull, 2 turret-mounted 13mm MG131 machine guns, that's around 50 cal in caliber, and 4 7.92mm MG81s in waist mounts. The registration was changed to X4 plus AH at the same time, and the V1 formed the basis for the new Air Transport Squadron Lufttransportstaffel 222 in brackets LTS 222. Between 1942 and 1943, the aircraft flew in the Mediterranean theatre until in mid-February 1943 it sank following a collision with a submerged wreck while landing at Piraeus harbour. That's no good. The V2, CC plus ER, made its first flight on 7 August 1941, and after extensive testing was assigned to LTS 222 on 10 August 1942 as X4 plus AB. Since the aircraft was intended for long-distance over-water flights in addition to the armament fitted to the V1, she received 2 rear-facing wing-mounted turrets. That's pretty cool, and you can see them in this video, those rear-facing wing-mounted turrets, with dual 13mm MG131s accessed via the tubular wing spar, which was 1 metre in diameter. How about that, eh? Gargantuan. In 1944, the V2 participated in Operation Schatzgräber, Treasure Seeker, the code name of a German weather station at Alexandra Land in the Arctic, whose sick crew needed to be evacuated. The Bv222 dropped a spare wheel for a FW200, which had sustained damage during landing near the station. The V3, initially DM plus SD, flew on 28 November 1941 and was transferred to LTS-222 on 9 December 1941. After V1's sinking, V3 returned to Hamburg, where she was armed. She was destroyed along with V5 on 20 June 1943 at Biscarrossa by RAF de Havilland Mosquito of number 264 Squadron RAF. V4, which had an altered height tail, was also assigned to LTS-222 for Africa flights. V6 was shot down on 21 August 1942 on the Taranto to Tripoli route by a Bristol Beaufighter. V8 was shot down on the same route on 10 December 1942. Yeah, I can imagine a Beaufighter making mincemeat out of a Bv222 with those cannons and 303s. The V7 TB plus QL, which made its first flight on 1 April 1943, was fitted with 6 746 kilowatt 1000 horsepower UMO 207 inline two-stroke diesel engines with a takeoff weight of 50,000 kilograms, 110,000 pounds, and a range of 6,100 kilometres, 3,800 miles. That's pretty good. Could do with more power on the engines though, only 1,000 horsepower per engine. It was intended as the prototype Bv222C, C for Charlie. Following the invasion of Normandy in June 1944, the remaining Bv222 aircraft were transferred to KG-200. Of these, C-09 was probably the Bv222 reported to have been strafed and destroyed by a Hawker Typhoon aircraft of number 439 Squadron RCAF, Royal Canadian Air Force, on 24 April 1945 at Seedorf, while V7 and V4 were scuttled by their crews at Travemünde and Kiel-Holtenau Airport, respectively, at the end of the war. C-10 was probably the Bv222 reported shot down southwest of Biscarrossa on the night of 8 February 1944 by a Mosquito of number 157 Squadron RAF. So those Mosquitoes and those Beaufighters and the Typhoons, good at shooting down large flying boats with their cannon and machine gun. One Bv222 V4 is said to have shot down a US Navy PB-4Y-1 Liberator of VB-105 in brackets BU 63917, commanded by Lieutenant Evert on October 22, 1943. Since the war, this has often been mistakenly quoted as a Bv222 shooting down an Avro Lancaster. That's interesting. Shooting down a Liberator with a Bv222. The next heading is Japan flights. Following the German invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941, plans were made to connect Germany and Japan by air using Luftwaffe aircraft modified for very long-range flights, since commercial flights to the Far East by Lufthansa were no longer possible, and it had become very dangerous for ships or U-boats to make the trip by sea. Field Marshal Erhard Milch authorised a study into the feasibility of such direct flights, and various routes were considered, including departing from German-occupied Russia and Bulgaria, and a sea route using a Bv222 flying from Kirkenes in North Norway to Tokyo via Sakhalin Island. a distance of 6,400 kilometres, 4,000 miles. And I think one of those could do it in just about one go without refuelling, 6,000 kilometres. The Bv222 was one of 3 aircraft considered seriously for the program, along with the Focke-Wulf FW200 and the Heinkel HE177. The HE177 was ruled out due to it being considered unreliable. That was a disaster, the 177. Constantly catching fire and engine failing with its ridiculous power system. Continuing on, and in 1943 the Yonkers Ju 290 was selected for the flights. The 290, okay. Post-war, 3 Bv222s were captured and subsequently operated by Allied forces. C011, C012 and C13. C12, captured at Sarisa in Norway after the war, along with V2, was flown by Captain Eric Winkle Brown from Norway to the RAF station at Calshot in 1946 with RAF serial number VP501. After testing at Marine Aircraft Experimental Establishment at Felixstowe, it was assigned to number 201 Squadron RAF, who operated it up until 1947 when it was scrapped. C11 and C13 were captured by US forces at the end of World War II. On August 15 and again on August 20, 1945, Lieutenant Commander Richard Schroeder of the US Navy performed test flights along with the German aircrew of one of the Bv222 aircraft that had been acquired by the US. In 2 flights, resulting in a total flight time of 38 minutes, they experienced 4 engine fires. While many spare engines were available, they were of substandard quality due to the lack of quality alloys near the end of the war and caught fire easily. That is very interesting. Since the aircraft was not airworthy with these engines, the aircraft was reportedly taken out to open water and sunk by a Navy destroyer. I wouldn't do that. I'd definitely be putting it in a museum. Other reports indicate the US captured aircraft were flown or shipped to the US. Convair acquired one for evaluation at the Naval Air Station Pawtuxent River. The intensive studies leading to the hull design of the Model 117, which in turn led to the R3Y trade wind. Their subsequent fate is unknown. I think Convair built some pretty big flying boats. Some of those US aircraft manufacturers built massive flying boats, and I'm not talking about the Hughes Hercules, otherwise known as the Spruce Goose. There's other companies that also made functional, gigantic flying boats. The V2 aircraft briefly wore US markings in 1946. Strangely, the V2 aircraft had identification markings given to her from the original V5 aircraft for Operation Schatzgraber. V2 was later scuttled by the British, who filled her with surplus waste from the base at Ilsvika to weigh her down. I just thought of a scuba diving project in Norway. V2 was towed into position in Trondheimsfjord between Ilsvika and Munkholmen, where she now rests on the seabed at 65 metres depth. That's pretty deep. You can still scuba dive 65 metres, but you can't do it for long, maybe 4 minutes, before funny things start happening to your physiology. Perfectly preserved. Oh, that sounds good. Due to low oxygen levels in the water, there are plans to raise and restore this aircraft. Yes, yes, they should definitely do that. They should get Airbus to restore her, like Airbus is doing, I know, with a Condor. Let's look at the variants. We've sort of gone through that already. There's one of them there. There was a proposed version, the Bv222B, which looks interesting because it had more powerful engines. Proposed version powered by 1470 horsepower, 1100 kilowatt Yonkers Ju 208 diesel engines. 1,470 horsepower per engine times 6 engines. That's more like it. That is more like it. Here's the specifications of the C model, Bv222C09. General characteristics: crew 11 to 14 crew members, capacity 92 troops or 72 wounded on stretchers, length 37 metres, wingspan 46 metres, height 10.9 metres, wing area 255 metres squared, empty weight 30,650 kilograms, gross weight 45,990 kilograms. Maximum takeoff weight 49,000 kilograms. Needs more power. Power plant 6 times Yonkers Ju 207C 6-cylinder liquid cooled opposed piston 2-stroke diesel engines, 745 kilowatt, 999 horsepower each for takeoff. Propellers 3-bladed variable pitch tractor propellers. Performance: maximum speed 330 kilometers an hour at 46,000 kilograms at sea level, 390 kilometers an hour at 5,000 meters, which is 16,500 feet. Cruise speed 300 kilometers an hour. Continuous economical at sea level 344 kilometers an hour at 18,000 feet. Ferry range 6,100 kilometers, which is 3,300 nautical miles. Endurance 28 hours at 245 kilometers an hour at sea level. more than a 24-hour cycle. Service ceiling 7,300 meters, 24,000 feet. Imagine going to 24,000 feet in a flying boat. That's almost as high as Mount Everest. Rate of climb 2.4 meters per second, 470 feet per minute. Time to altitude 6,000 meters, 19,685 feet, 52 minutes. So it'd take you almost an hour to get up to 20,000 feet. Armament: guns 3 times 20mm MG 151-20 cannons, 1 each in forward turrets and 2 wing turrets. 5 times 13mm, that's a 50 cal, MG 131 machine guns, 1 in nose and 4 in beam positions. That has been the Wikipedia article on the Blohm and VOSS Bv222, as read by me, Froggy Frog 9000. Don't forget to like, subscribe and donate. Thanks for watching.